I can be.
Welcome to your welcome to your show. This is your regular daily talk on coronavirus and talk money. Now, I know I've been covering this topic for a week now because I recognize that communities throughout the country need education, need advice in many ways possible. Now, you might be wondering why me doing this. Now, I've been a debt advisor for over 7 to 8 years, gave advice in a number of scenarios, loans, credit card, debt, all sorts. I've also have become, as time went on, become an expert in universal credit and gave talks for over a year and a half in many different parts of UK on this subject. So, if you genuinely care about advice, there are certain things you need to think about. One, maybe you want to get hold of a book like this, a universal credit handbook, although it may be soon be out of date, but it's worth having one because it will give you a brief summary of universal credit and the topics that you might need to know based on your circumstance. And the other one you may want to think about is getting hold of this advice handbook. Again, is a bible for advice workers, most importantly debt advisors who are really keen on giving debt advice. Now, other things might be of relevant to you, especially if you're thinking about rights around fuel and what rights do you have. I know there has been a lot of changes coming forward as a result of COVID-19, and we want to hear from you. Most importantly, I want to hear from you on You Can Live 079 51 714 140. Let me repeat, it's 079 51 714 140. I want this to be a platform where you can talk about your problems and hopefully there may be solution to your problems based on my expertise or the expertise of guests who know a great deal about money, a great deal about benefit system, a great deal about debt. So what we have for you today on You Can Live is that I've got an expert, Jane Clack, who will join us in brief moment, and then and no doubt we'll take it from there. So let's see. I mean, let me get Jane Clack on Facebook Live and also on LinkedIn and no doubt on YouTube. So long everything is working fine, we are pretty much ready to go really. So Jane, are you in the studio? Jane? Hi, Jen, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Jane. Thank you for coming on You Can Live. I know it's a new initiative. I know it's a long way to go, but since we're actually talking about the subject matter for today, no doubt it's going to be on two things really. One is about your expertise on money and debt and how lenders are seeing things, and also from your point of view as an advisor, how you're seeing things. And a lot of people, no doubt, want to know about insolvency options if those options are right for them. And a lot of people, no doubt, are worried sick about it. But really, before we go delve into the world of debt, tell me briefly about yourself and how do you fit into the debt advice sector?
I'm a money advice advisor, if you like, for PayPlan. I came to work for them after they'd helped me when my business failed. And I've worked for them since the day after the Twin Towers. And a few years ago, I became chair of the Institute of Money Advisors, who accredit money advisors so that when you speak to one of those, you know that you're speaking to someone who's trained and will give you the best advice. What we're finding, I'm working from home, as are all my colleagues. We are still getting the calls, we are still getting the work to do, but people have very little money and they're very, very worried and want to know how can they tread water. I'm sorry about the lag. which
I
makes
mean, no,
me
no, no.
sound
I
a
mean,
bit
I
bizarre.
can clearly hear from you, um, James, for sure. It's not a problem. So really, the question really for me is, from the changes that we've seen since the endemic, what sort of issues have you come across in your workplace, or has your workplace completely been transformed as a result?
It certainly has been c- because no one is working from the office. Every single person is working from their own front room or office. And they did that a couple of weeks ago, and we have been working from home ever since, which makes it easier in one way, but also means you've got to be a bit disciplined about getting up and dressing. You can't think about doing debt advice in your pajamas. Have you gone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you disappeared.
Ah,
I was having a little chat
oh,
about
yeah, yeah.
working in my pajamas, and you'd gone.
Well, it's probably because I was thinking about my pajamas,
Okay.
but but we're back now. So I mean, in
Okay.
terms of, in terms of, I suppose some of the, I suppose the headache of the epidemic will probably will see a bit later when genuinely individuals will struggle to pay their rents, will struggle to pay their mortgage, and no doubt the lenders will come back saying, okay, having had your breathing space for 3 months or so, now it's time to really pay up. So, in your experience, at what point do you think we'll come across individuals knocking, I suppose, on your door seeking advice or making that initial phone call?
They're already doing it. People are worried about the future. I don't think it'll be 3 months. The forbearance is going to have last a lot longer. I mean, we've already seen the chair of the Civil Enforcement Association saying there's a suspension on all bailiff activities, um, except occasionally ask for extensions or give payment breaks. But they're going to be helping getting deliveries out for the NHS and lots of other things. So we've seen that happen. We've seen renters not being allowed to be evicted.
Yeah, yeah.
We've also seen mortgage people being offered mortgage holiday, and we've also seen banks offering kind of free overdrafts to help people. But also, what we mustn't forget in this is that not everybody is furloughed. A lot of people are still working, and it's that we should be able to help those who aren't.
So then, when it comes to we should be able to help those who aren't, who are we talking about and how are we thinking about helping?
Well, all we can do is signpost them, remind them, give them the tools to make token payments if they wish. Of course, there will still be people who want to do debt management plans. One of the interesting is we're seeing some people wanting to increase their payments because they're at home and they're not having to spend travel chocs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Okay.
it's unbelievable, and
Yeah.
it's not something we're encouraging them to do, but they want to do it to get rid of their debt
Yeah.
because they know it will be there at the end, but they've got time to repay it then when they
Yeah.
can, when there's a resurgence.
I mean, is there any negative consequence for paying early?
No, I don't see any, except of course if they're not adding interest and you are finding it very tough to live, put yourself first. Put yourself and your priority bills first. People
Now,
can't move house, so
sure.
keep your mortgage going. But if they're offering you a mortgage holiday and you can't make ends meet, take it.
I mean, you just talked briefly about mortgage holiday. This is what actually HSBC has said around credit reference agencies and mortgage holidays. I mean,
That's
it's one of those
interesting.
things. Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously, it's important to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth in terms of what they're saying
Mhm.
when it comes to mortgage holidays and credit files. Naturally, a lot of people are worried sick about whether
Of
this
course
will
they are.
impact. Hey, this is
And
why.
imagine those at the beginning of their mortgage when they're
Yeah,
very high. I'm so
absolutely.
old, I'm almost at the end of mine.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean, this is what they have to say. No, does the repayment holiday affect my credit file? And this is what the lender has said. No, arranging a repayment holiday won't harm your credit file. It's really important though to contact us as soon as possible if you need a repayment holiday, especially if you're worried that you might not be able to make your next mortgage payment. So, I mean, no doubt there are going to be some people who are worried post mortgage payment, regardless of contacting the lender. So, when someone is in debt and knocks on your door, how do a debt advisor assesses the debt advice process to support the individual?
well, you go through a financial statement, obviously, to see where the person is now. Okay, so we need to know everybody they owe money to, and we need to prioritize what is paid. And as you can imagine, the unsecured debts are low on the list. Okay, they first of all we want to make sure the roof over their head is safe, and other bills are safe. What one of the big things is encouraging people, with certainly with their, especially with their priority debts, to contact their lenders, because that's the important thing. If the lender knows, they can show forbearance. If they don't know, they're going to assume it's a won't pay, not a can't pay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to make very clear.
So when we talk about won't pay and can't pay, I mean, does poverty means won't pay or what?
Poverty doesn't mean won't pay. Poverty means can't pay. Okay, and you know I've been beating on for this for ages. There isn't enough money for some people to live.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
this is why they've borrowed money from the wrong kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel they have to pay those back because they chase them quicker. And that's why I say look at priorities. And priorities to me include food, and they include heat, and they include getting to the shops or whatever. Paying Lending Stream or any other company I mean, is lower on my list.
No, absolutely. So looking at it from a debt advisor's point of view, what would you do? Here is the individual coming with debts. How would you then organize my situation for me to be debt free?
Well, first of all, I'd need to go through a full financial statement, and I'd see where you are now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd find out what you want to be or do. Because if you're in a property, for example, in negative equity, and in a mortgage arrears,
Mm-hmm.
do you really want to stay there? There's that to think of. Do you want to protect your credit rating? Do you want to repay your debts as quickly as possible? Or do you just want creditors to stop contacting you? So it's looking at the medium term as well as the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And there is always something you can do. It might be token payments for a breathing space. It might be an insolvency option,
Mm-hmm.
or it might be a debt management plan. It's what is best for the client and what they choose to do after we've advised them
Yeah, yeah.
and given them the pros and cons.
So, I mean, what is a debt management plan?
A debt management plan is what's called a supervised informal arrangement. Basically, it's a gentleman's agreement between the client and his or her creditors,
Mm-hmm.
with the debt management company acting as the distributing intermediary. So one payment is made,
Mm-hmm.
and that is distributed on a pro rata basis to all the creditors. And the payment is made to the debt management company, who should not be charging you a fee, as you know, and it takes the weight off, because it allows somebody who's got multiple debts to make sure that everybody is being paid fairly.
I mean, I've got a message actually over here from an individual saying, I can't afford to pay my debt. What can you do for me?
If you can't afford to pay your debt, first of all, we need to find out why. Okay, so it may be that their income has gone completely, in which case we look about benefits and things like that. I mean, I have a personal friend at the moment, who can't apply for the business loan and things like that because he hasn't been taking an income from his limited company. And I told him to apply for universal credit. And his immediate response was, I can't do that.
Why not?
Well, he just didn't want to. And I mean, we've had over 500,000 people applying for universal credit in the last week. So that shows you how many people have to. So when we find out why they can't pay their debts, then we can look at advice for how they can clear their debts. Now, again, it might be the breathing space, might be the token payments to tread water, it might be paying creditors less per month through a debt management plan, or it could be an insolvency option, like an individual voluntary range, full-blown bankrupt, or a debt relief order. I've had a call this morning from somebody who's really distressed, living on ESA in the support group, had a loan shark debt, which she has just paid off. He was still coming to collect it. She has a small payday lender debt and 2 overpayments of child tax credit. And her best advice, as a debt relief order, she has no car, she has rented accommodation, and there is no chance with COPD that her income is going to improve. So that's a solution for her. She said, I thought I'd be having to pay them for the rest of my life.
So what's the positive aspects of debt relief order?
Positive aspect is for somebody who has little income and little assets, it actually takes the weight of this debt off their shoulders. It's only a moratorium for a year, so the creditors can't chase them. And if at the end of the year their income hasn't improved, they're debt-free. And that allows them the fresh start that they often deserve. The sad thing is when you see people on deficit budget. You've heard me talk about these before.
You might as well tell me, what is deficit budget?
A deficit budget is when somebody's income doesn't give them enough to live. And I'm afraid quite often universal credit puts people into that situation. It puts them into that situation often too because they've had to take the loan straight away. It should be made a grant, I think, especially at the moment, because they're then taking it off their universal credit. So if you look at somebody, about 317, isn't it, the basics you see? Okay, well, that's £10 a day for food, heating, lighting, communication, so they can keep their phone going. How can you live on that? Well, you can for short term, but not for long. Now, my sister, who will help me saying this, for the first time in her life, had to go on to universal credit. Okay? She owns her own house. She's now got the council tax being paid. She's in her late 50s, and she earned last month about 450 quid. So her tax credit, her UC will be £40
Wow. So when it
because
comes
they
to,
take it off.
oh my god, but when it comes to her mortgage, then is she a mortgage? Does she owns
No, she
outright?
owns that outright.
Well, I suppose that puts her in a kind of better position if she was still paying her mortgage.
Exactly. Exactly. Just it would put her in a far worse position. And if you were imagine she were at the beginning of her mortgage
Mm.
and she was a very high earner,
Yeah, yeah.
and you see mortgages at £1,500 a month, how on
Mm.
earth do they cope?
Good, very good question. I mean, I think, do you think the 5 weeks wait is making things worse or easy?
Of
What are
course
your
it
those?
is. Of course it is. It's putting people in rent arrears. I'm
But you can
sorry, I
always get
get
an
very
advance
angry
payment.
about that.
That's fine, but you can always get an advance payment. I mean, that's what the
Well,
government has been saying.
but then they say with a smile on their face,
uh,
well, yes, it should be a loan,
mm,
and then taking it off, so it builds up and builds up, and then they show you on TV
mm,
on that first episode about universal credit,
mm.
showing you the couple who was smoking,
Yeah.
so that the Middle England could say they're affording their cigarettes, and that's not true. Most people are really struggling, and that
See,
money is on their bills.
see, if you're saying there is deficit budget, i.e., not enough money coming in, but expenses are high, and at the same time you are in debt, what? How can you resolve their
Well,
money
exactly.
trouble?
As I said, I can get rid of their debt,
Mm.
but how can I stop them getting into debt again?
So would that be more about a policy issue, a policy implementation
Oh,
of the government, I guess?
I certainly think so. I think everybody has a right to a roof over their head.
Mhm.
Okay, and that should always be covered. I'm a great fan of this idea of the Finnish universal income, and everybody has that, and then they can earn more. I think that's by far a better idea. But of course, that's not going to happen here at the moment. I
I
mean, I
mean,
think the government's trying everything it can at the moment.
mm,
It's really trying to help. I can't be negative about it.
mm,
But I do think UC needs a kick up the bottom and going.
I mean, the universal basic income has been implemented and tried actually in Finland on those who were job seeking. Although, when it comes to, I suppose, financial well being, that wasn't much of a significant. But what was obvious is that it took away the stress and strain of the claimant commitment, i.e., you
Yeah.
must look for work.
Yeah.
So there is a positive element. I mean, then, in your opinion, if you are saying that there needs to be a universal basic income, on what principle and what capacity?
Well, I personally think everybody should get it. And it changes with if you earn. But everybody gets this bottom income so that they can survive. I think that's where it starts.
I mean, clearly that is something that has been argued by a lot of organizations and individuals, no doubt. But in the current climate and the current setting, what advice would you give someone who's struggling financially?
Well, all I can say, I can signpost and say, contact online to see if you're entitled to any other benefit. I mean, but even think about food banks.
Yeah.
Okay, where are the people getting the vouchers for those?
Well,
Because
usually you
places are
get
closed.
yeah. So usually you get food voucher by going to advice centres, local
Yeah,
community
which are
centres,
closed.
which are
Which are
closed.
closed.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So how do they getting them?
Very good question.
Councils, a lot of people working from home. How are they getting them?
Absolutely. I thought we have community grassroots activists who are taking food everywhere, and the government has recruited 500,000 people.
Well, that's wonderful if you're one of them who are on the list. But how do you get on the list?
Well, I thought you need to sign up, didn't you?
Well, how do they sign up? Have you seen any little notices saying people sign up for help?
No, I haven't.
There you are. Or perhaps we're not looking in the right place. But it is something that it worries me. It does worry me because it's it's just something that's going to get worse, not better. And these people, when we come out the other side, it's those people who are not going to be able to repay things. So they should be grants. I think all payday loan lenders and everything should be stopped now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should put a freeze on all interest.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll say, well, how do they make their money?
How do they make their money?
Well, they make it on the interest they're charging, don't they?
And what happens if you default?
Well, if you default, as I was telling a client of mine this weekend, I don't actually think a debt collector is a key or essential worker. So he won't be coming to your door. Okay? So you let your creditor know that you are in a situation where you can't make a payment, and no, I'm sorry, you can't afford £5 that I saw a creditor text this vulnerable client, saying, until your DRO is in place, we will continue to add interest, and we'll set up a plan for you to pay us £5 a week. I've seen the email, a text, I beg your pardon.
That's fine.
Well,
Well,
is
look.
that right?
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's totally wrong.
On
And
what
I
basis?
don't know, because how can somebody who has no money pay £5 a week to somebody who's making money? I mean, it's. I'm not saying debts haven't to be repaid, but I think debts and creditors who charge very large rates of interest should be the ones who suffer first, because they boomed in boom times.
Well, just to finish off, Jane, if someone is struggling, what would you say to them?
Don't be frightened to get in touch. Get in touch with us at PayPlan. There are lots of other organisations. Get in touch with your council and let your creditor know you're having difficulties. That's the thing. The big line is, all creditors are being told this: utmost forbearance.
On that note, Jane, thank you for taking part on this edition, COVID and Talk Money. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Listeners, on You Can Live, you heard Jane talking about lending, borrowing, and debt, no doubt. So now really, what we are going to be talking briefly about on credit report. So I know, oh Jane, can you hear me still? Okay, so I know we briefly talked about a credit report, but of course, let me go deep into the credit files and what do creditors think in the context of credit files. So yeah, so credit reports, no doubt, are compiled of number of things. Information provided by your lender, information whether you have registered to vote, information provided by courts. So all those things combined together, you have a credit file. It's very much like your CV. So if your CV shows a history of your work experience that you would usually type, when it comes to credit file, it's your financial CV from the point of view of creditors, and those who obtain the information of credit files, or those who provide it, are called credit reference agencies. So yeah, credit reference agencies, and on the whole, there are about 4